Hi, everyone, and welcome. It's Wednesday, 6:32 and January 26th, and that is my dog in the background barking for attention. But welcome to the multiverse, and welcome to my news special. So, first, we're going to be talking about the death of Regina King's son, Ian. He unfortunately took his life on his birthday. Let's just show his picture here. And this is Regina King's only son. His name is Ian Alexander. The family's really devastated by his loss, and it was definitely unexpected. And, I don't think anyone expected it, but people, from what the research I was doing, people said if you look at his social media profile, there was indications that he was possibly depressed and going through something. So, his mother adored him. Like, if you ever see any interviews with Regina King in regards to her son, she just doted on him, loved him, and definitely very sad that he's gone very young. So, if anyone's thinking about suicide and needs assistance, don't forget to check out the National Suicide Prevention Line. And it's also a text hotline as well. So you can text that number as well if you're needing assistance. But I also want to share some facts related to suicide. So this is just some data. So I wanted to share this with you guys. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death. And this data is as of 2021. So it's a year old, but this is brought together just from different statistics, but it says here that 1.379 million Americans have attempted suicide. That's a lot. And, mental health is a big part of this. And so that's what our show is about. And so, we want to talk about mental health and do a mental health check-in and make sure everybody's doing well. And I'm going to put this number up here one more time, just for future reference, and share it with anybody who may need it. So, that's all I got. That's all the news I got today, guys. Sorry, it's kind of depressing, but it leads us in today's show on mental health. And let's see how everybody's doing in 2022.
Thank you so much, Holly. Thank you so much for that. And again, we want to send our condolences out to Regina King and her husband and the entire family. This is tragic. Such a young man. It's just, to all accounts, man. It's really just crazy because this young man killed himself on his birthday. Like what's intended to be one of the happiest days for most people because it's your day, ended up being his last day on earth. And I was talking to Tyrone behind the scenes, and he was just talking about how poetic, the way he went out. And it is poetic, but it's just so sad at such an early age. 26, you had your full life ahead of you. And again, rest in power, Ian Alexander Jr., and our condolences go out to your family. But it does raise a bigger topic today, guys, of mental health. And, this one I think is strange, Tyrone, because we were alluding to this and talking about this backstage. And what does one do when there are no signs? Because typically with mental health, there's something. Like, if I don't know about you guys, but I have a few encounters with friends, and that sometimes it'd be like, man, you a little off. You know what I'm saying? Like, but this was one of those situations where everybody, at least everything that I've read, just talks about how happy he was, how kind, and that he was the type of person that looked out for other people, and you know, everything that I saw, when it came to him and his mom, was just like this, like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, smiling and, dapper and going out on dates and, like that's the like best friend. Your mom is your best friend type relationship. And even to her dismay, she wasn't aware of what was going on with him mentally. So Tyrone, what is it that we can do as a society, as a people, um, to proactively make moves in regards to maybe treatment of people, to try to, because there's no way to really defend against this, but what can we do um, proactively to help a person or help people in general?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things and even a couple ways to look at this. Number one, we can continue having conversations like this and encourage these kinds of conversations, in just everyday life and with friends and family and stuff. So to help to destigmatize, mental health issues and to destigmatize, those kinds of things. So when somebody does reach out for help or somebody does say something, they don't get chastised or shunned or even ignored or looked at weird. Somebody listens and actually hears that. So it just, we need to make sure that we're continuing to push things just through to a better understanding and a better embracing of just taking care of each other's mental health. um, Another thing we could do is take care of ourselves. It's very, like, I don't think anybody who ends up committing suicide, you know, is just. I don't think that there's something different about them. I think that's something that, given the wrong circumstances, could happen to all of us. So we need to be constantly checking in with ourselves. I'm sure nobody thinks of themselves as the type of person to, to do that until all of a sudden it's like it feels like the only option. So it's a very serious thing to be aware of yourself. I mean, I know that kind of goes into a third point of it's not always visible and you may not always have signs. Depression doesn't have a look. I mean, sometimes you can see people are depressed, their looks may change, their lifestyles may change, they may be unkempt, they may be, whatever. There's so many different signals that can help, but it's not always that easy, even to oneself. I know that, I want to be clear, I don't suffer from depression, so I'm not trying to compare any kind of feeling I've had with severe depression. I respect depression enough to know that it's not all, it's not all the same. But I've come out of, times where I've gone weeks and being like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm great, everything's great, and then look back a couple weeks and be like, oh damn, I was not fine. Like I was having a rough time, didn't even know it. You know what I mean? So it's very important that we're aware of ourselves and honest with ourselves.
Yeah, those are definitely facts. We started off the year talking about some of the things that we desire for ourselves this year, and some of the things that we were gonna or the way we were gonna approach the new year. And I started off the year by saying it's very important that we start to look out for self, because for so many years we've been told and taught and guided to be charitable, to be good to others, to take care of siblings, take care of family, friends, relationships. Um, but I don't think you're ever told to take care of yourself. I don't think anyone, like they give you instances on what you can do to take care of yourself. You can go to school, you can get a good education, which will then in turn somehow get you a good job that will, allow you, the means to have a better life for yourself, things like that. But no one says, at least no one said to me,
Yeah.
make sure you are taking care of self first.
Yeah.
I didn't
Right.
learn that until I got older.
Yeah, and this is very much a generational thing. I think people who grew up in our generation, probably a lot of us have the same experience, especially in the community, the like the Black community, especially, you know what I mean, and other communities of color. Like there was that stigma around it. So we didn't talk that way about mental health. It was, you just don't talk about it. Everything's good unless it's not. And if it's not, then like, man up. Like that was kind of just the way that we went about it. But if you notice, like now, there are things that are part of just our vernacular now, like self-care. How many times have you heard somebody say self-care in the last 5 years? You know what I mean? Like it's something that is around, and it's starting, and that's a good thing. I know it's we say it's kind of jokingly sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't really make too much sense, but it's part of life now, and we're talking about it. And so there's a shift happening, which is great. But that's still, for people like us, it's still something that we're getting used to. We're getting used to the idea of actually taking care of ourselves. And it doesn't have to be one thing or the other. We can take care of ourselves and then do for others, and help others, and even really be more equipped to do those things and to help others and to be there for others, and that kind of thing.
Holly, we live in 2022 right now.
Yeah.
And social media is probably larger and bigger and more widespread than it's ever been. Does social media have a direct effect on one's mental health? Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of research around younger children like committing suicide or having low self-esteem issues even younger. I think, you get that comparison syndrome, or you can, oh, this person's posting how they're always on vacation, they're living the life, but then that person could be, all we know, completely depressed and going through something, but they're only showing people one side. But for those of us who don't know, we're like, oh my gosh, they're like living the best life. And I think, or like you can even see it with plastic surgery, for example, where a lot of young girls now are getting like BBLs and things, Brazilian butt lifts. Sorry, just using acronyms there, but people trying to look, like certain celebrities and killing themselves because to them, like if they don't look like that, their self-esteem is not there, and then people are just not happy with themselves. And I don't think social media helps whatsoever. But I think that's, like you said, being self-aware and like recognizing like, hey, I need to take a break from all electronics, or just, no screens of any kind. I need to just like meditate, be one with nature. Because I do think it can be detrimental to your mental health if, if you're always looking at other people and comparing yourselves and wishing this and wondering that. And yeah, I don't think it could be very good.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead, Tyrone.
Yeah, I wanted to just add to what Holly was saying, which is absolutely true. And, hopefully part of this, the way that things are moving now, is that we can learn better balance with social media, and kind of pass that down. We had the fortune of growing up, part of our lives without it. So it's not all important to us. You know what I mean? It's not something that's like, it's life, I gotta have it. Whereas, if you were born in the last like 15 or so years, or even 20 or so years, like it's part of your life, and it is part of your social life. It's part of the fabric of how you are, how you engage with your friends and family sometimes. So, we've got to start to help to teach that balance. It's got to be part of life skills now. It's like social media management. You can't just let them figure it out. Like it's not a figure it out yourself situation. Don't let the kids figure this one out for themselves. Like we need to work together to help, because the internet can be a great tool. We can do stuff like this on the internet and help people and talk about these kinds of things. Just like a hammer. And the internet's like a tool. You can build with it or you can destroy with it. So we've got to make this hammer a tool to build.
Yeah. I mean,
cyberbullying. Yeah, like the kids killing themselves and being cyberbullied and stuff like that. You're like, man, this person's only 13. Like, where did they even get the thought to like, I'm gonna end my life? Like, that's the only way. And it just makes you think like, wow, like, yeah.
I mean, Tyrone, you brought up a really good point in regards to the time period when you grew up as opposed to now. When we grew up, we lived more in a box. Meaning like if I was poor, I wouldn't have known I was poor because in my box, this is just life. This is just the way we are. So this is just it.
Yeah.
But what social media allows you to do is now look outside the box and see how everybody else is living. So it does, at that point bring a sense of maybe regret, a sense of um uh not accomplishing the things that you feel like you should, or to put being in places where you feel that you should be. um and now with everybody living like that, being able to have this lens that points in every direction, um, it does put because now that we're talking about this,
Mhm.
it does give you more of an understanding of why these kids feel like they're under such pressure. Because I talked to my teenage son, I talked to other kids, and to hear them talk about, I'm so stressed. I'm like, you for what? You don't have no responsibilities. You don't have that. But then I'm thinking now they're stressed because they're living in this, you know, society where they're constantly being judged
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Like
they're
there's,
constantly judging.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
like,
Like, yeah, I'm a 38-year-old man and I'm an entertainer. And like, I love being on stage and telling jokes and, being in front of people, all that stuff. But the idea of like having to curate like a social media, persona thing that's going to be all engaging with everybody and that kind of stuff is stressful. You know what I mean? And that's as a grown person who chooses this life. You know what I mean? Imagine just being a kid trying to figure out, I mean, you don't even know what the hell's happening with your own body yet. You're like, why do
mm,
I don't understand any of my own feelings. I don't understand what the hell I'm supposed to be doing or thinking right now. And on top of that, I've got everybody around me like trying to give me different, trying to pull me in different directions or,
Yeah.
break me down or whatever else. I can't even imagine the level of pressure that these kids must feel. I think it's something that I've taken lightly, to be honest. With this conversation is kind of opened up my eyes to, because oftentimes I'm just like, kids and social media, whatever, that, you know what I mean, and just kind of write it off. But this is real life to them
mhm,
because
It
of the
is.
way it's just part of the fabric now.
Well, and you see kids on here making like millions of dollars. There's a few
Hmm.
young kids who started when they were like, toddlers, and
Hmm.
now they're millionaires. And so I think
So weird.
also that like that's a way, it's a way, it's you can make money being on social media. So thinking like, oh, I just gotta post videos and pictures and I can
Hmm.
be famous, and but not realizing what that comes with, like you said, the engagement, like people in your comments and bashing you and sharing your stuff and talking about you. Like what young child is, their confidence is at that point, where they
Hmm.
can take that, and like maybe hopefully some of them are young enough, glad they can't read yet, but
Yeah.
at some point, like they're probably going to go back to their videos and see like
Right.
all
Yeah.
these comments. And I always just wonder like, yeah, like how do parents like balance that decision to let, kids start channels and things like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
a lot of times it seems as though, like, because when you start speaking about the parents, you're talking about our generation. You're talking about people our
Yeah,
age who experienced
yeah,
the different.
typically.
So to Tyrone's point, and the point that I just was making too, is I never really, when my son was saying those things like I'm so stressed and I was like, dude, you don't got nothing to be stressed about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now that we're talking about this, it
Hmm.
really does make sense, because
Hmm.
again, you now have a lens to see everybody else's life out here. And if your
Hmm.
life doesn't measure up, then you start questioning things about yourself, your inadequacies,
Hmm.
maybe something that you're lacking in, and as far as like financially, you're like, oh well, he's
Hmm.
got this, and he's got all of that, or she's got this, and you start, and what Lisa kind of brought up was the pressure of the
Hmm.
comparison, which
Yeah.
wasn't there when we were kids, so we don't really acknowledge it. Like, I
Yeah.
can honestly say, when he said I was stressed, I didn't acknowledge at all why he would be stressed. I just condemned it immediately.
Hmm.
Like, no, get out of here. You're stressed.
Yeah.
You have no bills, you have no job, you have nothing. You know, that's I think a lot of what comes out of a lot of parents' mouths, like us, you know, that have gone through, actually went through some shit and had reason to be stressed, as opposed to these things. So now that we're talking about this and it's making more sense to me, how do you
Mhm.
approach these individuals, like my son, or like Miss King's son? How do you approach them if you think there's something wrong, without pushing them over the top or pushing them overboard? How would you do? I'm gonna start with you with that one, Tyrone. How would you approach that? Give some advice to the people out there.
So my advice, because I don't have kids, comes from a place of like sort of an outside observer,
Yes.
or imagining what this conversation might have been like with my parents. You know what I mean? Like, so just that's my perspective before I say this. So I guess for me, it would be to just start to, not every moment is going to be a big moment, but just to start to kind of open that door and build that trust of, okay, this, this, my dad is somebody I can confide in. Like when he comes to you and he's like, damn, I'm stressed, be like, I feel you. Being stressed sucks. Like, tell me about your stress. What's got you stressed out? You know what I mean? And he tells you, and he's like, yeah, I can see how that's stressful. You know what I mean? It's instead of, I think because I can imagine as a parent, you don't want your child to feel these things. So you're just like, don't worry about
Mhm.
that because I don't want you to have to deal with this stuff now. Well, they're either going to deal with it with you or they're going to deal with it by themselves. And you could probably do so much more to help them. You know what I mean? If you're there with them in that, because by themselves, they're probably not going to be doing well. So, just knowing that, okay, if I say something, I've got a pair of ears I can talk to. You know what I mean? I got somebody who's going to be listening and somebody who could help out. And then you can actually work through those feelings together, probably learn a lot from each other and learn a lot even about each other while these conversations are happening. And just working through them, because instead of avoiding feelings, which is, I think, is a lot of the way that we were taught. And it's not out of malice. It's because our parents didn't talk about it, and their parents didn't talk about it. You know what I mean? So we're breaking the cycle. Like, we could be the generation to break that cycle. And I think that's the way to go about it right away, is just to be like, hey, I'm here, ready to listen, ready to talk. Maybe I could share some of my stress with you too. Maybe so we can kind of like, just have an open dialogue and have just this, this really honest and compassionate relationship.
Hmm. I couldn't have said it better myself,
Mhm.
Tyrone. Um, Now, Holly, based on what Tyrone just said, um, I mean, because as a parent, we're both parents. Um, when you try, well, yours aren't that old, but so I'll speak to it. So when you try to have these conversations with your children and you try to be that outlet or be that place where they can confide in, what I've found, especially with the older kids, is this this feeling that he, I I don't want you to know so much about me. Like, it's like he's very like secretive. You know what I'm saying? But he gives me like little tidbits, and then I have to figure it out. It's like like I'll be like, well, just say what you mean. I don't know. All right, well, if you don't know, I don't know. Uh, I need something, man. Man, I just be stressing. Okay. All right, I get that. I get that. I get you be stressing, but why do you be stressing? I don't know. That's what I get.
Yeah.
So like it's literally me having to, like, literally, okay, I see something there. Let me I have to go and be so, it's such a complex discussion because you're not giving me enough to be a resource. Like, I can be a resource if you give me enough, just a little bit. But I'm finding with my teenage son that he doesn't want to share the stuff. Like, it's like I have to catch the end of it. So
Mm.
he broke up with a girl. He didn't want to tell me he broke up with the girl, but I had to read his body language. So then I'm like, son, what's going on? Nothing. Man, something's up with you, man. What's up? I don't know. It's always that. So then now I gotta like really now I gotta go talk to your mom and you know figure out it. Oh yeah, he broke up with his girlfriend. Oh, that's what it is. Now I gotta come back and be like, no, son, you know, we stuff like that happens. You're gonna have those, you know, like, but listen, you just gotta get up, dust yourself off. You know, there'll be other girls out there, you know, focus on these things. But it just doesn't it doesn't seem to register. Like when I no matter how clear I try to be, it just doesn't register. Like even when I'm talking to him, like it, and I try to keep it. Sometimes I just go full slang. I'll be like, look, man, look, I'm just gonna throw all of the big words out the door. We're gonna go full slang. So what's up with you? You know what I mean? Like, look, I'm coming straight street with you. Like, this is what it is. You had a girlfriend, it didn't work out. Like, you got listen. He's like, man, but I loved it. I was like, well, that's a tough word there. Love. I don't know if that's what you did, but if you did love her, if it's meant to be, I start going back in the book of what my mom used to tell me. If it's meant to be, you gotta let it go, and then if it comes back, it's meant to be. So you know, I'm telling him, and he's like, man, you know, she gonna get out there and you know be with somebody else. Well, that's something you have to deal with. But the reason I'm saying all of this is because, in essence, when I'm listening to all of this, it seems like such a meager, like it doesn't seem like anything major or anything, but to him, it seems like this is the end all be all. And so now I have to condition myself to think outside of the way that I was raised and the way that I was brought up and understand that he's a different breed because that's what society is breeding these kids to be, is dependent on the internet, you know, like completely dependent on the internet, completely you know, it just engulfed in social media because he's an Instagrammer. He stays on Instagram to the wee hours of the morning with all kind of posts. And when you see something like that, man, as a parent, like Holly, like how does one navigate something like that? Even with what Tyrone just said, as far as, you know, acknowledging that the kid has a problem, acknowledging that that's an issue, and then kind of like, you know, giving your feedback, even though it doesn't seem like it's registering at all. Like, what does one do in that situation?
Oh, well, considering my kids are 4 and 7, so nothing I say really sticks for more than maybe like 5 minutes. But
Right.
but what I will say is, since my kids are young, we started talking about like emotional intelligence and like understanding your feelings and being like, especially for them as they're starting to like, when they get frustrated and like stop, why are you frustrated? And then saying like, this is what happened, and like kind of acknowledging like, even if someone took their toy, like, well, like I don't know what their relationship was, but that's what I'm saying. I think feeling comfortable to facilitate like acknowledging someone's feelings and kind of where they're sitting. Like I know for my oldest daughter, because she watches a lot of young kids on YouTube, she wanted to post like YouTube videos. And I think one time I post one video and she kept saying like, how many likes does it have? And like, you know, and I was like, oh no, like you're only like 6, you know, we're not going to start this now. And I haven't let her post or do anything else because I'm like, we're not going to start this now because I don't think you understand the repercussions of like really having to post and do all these things where it's like, because I've dabbled in it and I like understand it, I'm like, oh, trust me, you don't want the amount of effort that goes into being mindful of it. But I think that's what I'm saying. Like, really, I maybe I'm a helicopter mom, but I am very invested in like the things that they're doing. And in terms of just saying like, okay, if I recognize body language, just saying like, hey, I can tell you're frustrated. Would you like to explain it to me? You know, and I always try to be like, hey, when I was your age, I was frustrated too. And like, she'll be like, oh, really? You didn't know how to married? Or like, you didn't know how to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I've had a lot of life since then. But I think realizing like it does get better. And I always try to explain to them that like when you're older, you'll be able to move how you need to move and do all these things. So I try to make it not seem like they're so like that it's like they might feel like that temporarily, but it's not permanent. So I think getting them to understand like you might temporarily feel that way and then try to talk through it and understand and recognize like this is not going to be, you're not going to permanently feel stressed. You're not going to permanently feel angry or frustrated. Like that's going to dissipate. But I definitely try to monitor that because I am aware that young kids nowadays, they will say like, oh, I'm going to kill myself. Like that is just something like that never came like maybe out of our mouths, but like nowadays, like kids really like that's an option for them, And so I try to like really stay tuned and see what they're watching and all that kind of stuff because like it's kind of scary.
Full disclosure, I can speak for self.
Yeah.
I did. I when I was a kid and my mom, I mean, I was in a single parent household. I mean, my mom was remarried, but I had one parent. So my mom was very militant with me.
Mm.
She felt the need to be a mother and a father because I didn't have my father. So
Mm.
it was like, look, I can't, I'm raising a man. I have to be like, that was my mom's mentality. I thank her for it. But that was her mentality. Back then, I didn't understand that. I was a
Mm.
kid. And, when she wouldn't let me do what the other kids were doing, she wouldn't let me go and play when the other kids were playing. And I always got to be in my room and I always got to be reading books and I always got to be doing this stuff I don't want to do. And I remember times being so upset and so sad that I wanted to die. I wanted
Mm.
to, I remember times laying in my bed, mad at my mom, just asking for my father, even though I knew he was dead, but just
Mm.
because anything seems like it would be better than what I'm going through right now. So
Mm.
as a kid, I would do those things. And there is a fascination, and at least I can speak from this part for myself. There was a fascination with death. At some
Mm.
point in my childhood, there was a lot of fascination with fire. I remember I used to light shit on fire
I had a
just to
pyro
see it,
phase.
just to see it burn. And like I mean, it didn't creep into my adulthood, but it was something that I did. I remember specifically setting a school desk on fire in class, playing with a lighter in the desk. And I set them up on fire and panicked, like, oh no, it's like the desk is back here smoking. I got my ass whooped for that. But I mean, these were things that as a kid, I know that there are things that you become fascinated with or interested in. And for me, I never went through with it, but I actually did things like when I remember at one of the things I did, I had a belt, and I remember taking the belt. And this is so like generic, but I put the belt in the closet on the
The rod.
The
the rod,
rod.
and then I put it around my neck and was like, ugh. And of course, um, I'm not. I mean, this isn't funny. It was funny when I did it, but because I immediately let it go because you can't
Yeah.
do it that way. And I'm not trying to tell anybody how to do it, but you can't do it that way. And so I did that as a get back. I thought if I do this to myself, my
Mm.
mom is gonna pay for it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
you treating me bad, I won't be here. You'll have to live with it. That was kind of my, thing, which is rebellion and rebelliousness that most kids have. And just maybe never actually tried this. I had a lot of time on my hands too, so that was
Yeah.
probably another thing.
But also though, I think as our understanding of mental health grows, and when I say our, I mean like humanity and doctors, people who are far more qualified to speak on this.
Yes.
But like So I can't I don't have any power to diagnose anybody with anything, but I think based on what we know today, if you were 15 years old right now and you told that story, then somebody would be like, it sounds like you have suicidal ideation. We should probably have some therapy sessions, or, whatever else, like that kind of thing. So, and we look back on that and it's like, we look at it as this kind of like silly phase sort of thing. And because that's kind of the, how dismissive we were of issues that were probably big, like, that might've been a great time for somebody to, to be there for you. You know what I mean? In a way that was not the typical way that we're used to, so, it's what you were talking about with kind of reconditioning yourself I think is such a huge thing to, to kind of spotlight, because that is the reconditioning is the perfect way to describe that. Because, like you were talking about earlier with your son and the breakup, kind of the, plenty of fish in the sea, get back out there, this kind of thing. Like those things are they're meant to help, because we don't want people to feel these things. But really what it comes down to is they're just kind of dismissive. It's like, let's just move on and, like leave this one behind us. So, the reconditioning is huge. And, just want to take a moment to spotlight that, and also like applaud you for, taking that step, which is, I think, a step a lot of people have to take who were, born around the time that we were born.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it was like when and I mean, I'm glad we had this conversation, because again, this is bringing so much. I'm feeling so much more enlightened on why I hear this constantly. It's not just my son. I hear
Right.
this constantly from this younger generation about how much stress they're under and how much pressure life is bringing to them, and how and when I look back, like, we faced real issues. And well, not I'm again dismissing what we felt as were real issues back then. And what I've done is, like you said, I've reconditioned myself, but I was conditioned to believe that there's a scale as far as what is deemed to be appropriate, as far as obstacles, or what you would deem as something, some type of travesty or whatever, that would cause you to go through a mental uh uh um
Kind of reprogramming.
yeah, reprogramming or shift or anything like that. um it feels as though now, looking back on then, and then trying to apply it to now, is not going to be the way that I'm going to be able to reach my son. Because as long as I feel as though his issue is not on that scale, then I will approach it with not the way that he's feeling it. I'll approach it in the way that I deem it. So, that, I think that part, as parents, is extremely important, to take out our own notions regarding what we think is pressure, for one,
Right.
and just understand that our children are going through something that we have no idea. Like, it's like, this for us is like, it's so easy for us to just turn our shit off.
Yeah.
Like, at any given time, if I feel overwhelmed with social media, or I feel like it's causing me some type of problems, I will turn it off. But that's not the case with this younger generation.
Right.
They are completely and utterly dependent on it. And even to what your point that you were making, Holly, about your daughter, just that quickly, she did a YouTube, and just that quickly, how many people you get, you know what I'm saying? So that energy that these kids are going through, and like that type of mindset, where you're just like, now that I did this, I should have this reaction, and if I don't get that reaction, I'm totally sad. Or, if people start
Instant
talking about me,
gratification.
as they will, if they're not all talking about me in a positive way, I'm again, going down. And then now I have to keep up the appearance of whatever I've established, because now I have a social media following, and now people are their expectations of me are greater. So I get it now. Like I literally get it now. I was not in any way, shape, or form understanding um, what he said when he was like, I'm under so much stress. And now that we're talking about it, it really kind of hit home just now, as far as what and why um,
Mhm.
my comments may have caused him to shut down because he didn't feel like I understood.
Mm,
Just like I said, it didn't register to him. Flip side, it didn't register to me.
Yeah.
So, that makes a lot of sense, man. I appreciate that, Tyrone, because I definitely was not looking at it from that angle. Um,
Yeah. No, for
but
sure. Glad to help.
yeah, always. Now one of my other big questions is, um, and this I think we've kind of talked about it a little bit already. Is um when you're in these situations, I guess as the person who's under it, having those mental health problems, um, how do you know uh when you found the right therapist? And I'm gonna let you answer this, Tyrone, specifically. How do you know when you found the right therapist, and where how do you build that level of trust with a stranger?
Yeah, I
In
think
essence?
I think a good therapist will make that part as easy as they possibly can. Deciding to search for a therapist is a big decision for somebody. Going through with searches, going through with making appointments, it's not an easy process. It's not for something that's such an essential. I think it should be essential. It should be an essential service for everybody. But for something that's so essential, it's not easy. So when it comes to looking for people and stuff, it's tough. So finding the right therapist can be difficult. I've heard of people who've had bad experiences with therapists, uh, just because the you know like in a regular situation, you're not going to be friends with everybody because not everybody vibes like the way some people do with other people. So uh, it's if you can be if you could be more honest with your therapist than you've been with anybody in your life, and that's not to say that the really close people in your life don't deserve that level of honesty. That's just that is it's just a whole other thing. Like when you're like, all right, we're digging in here, you know what I mean? Like you've got to be able to trust somebody with thoughts that you haven't let out before, you know what I mean? Knowing that they have your best interest in mind, and that whatever comes from those thoughts is not going to be met with judgment or any kind of condemnation or whatever. It's not that just throwing out the most severe ideas, but it's got to be you have to be extremely honest. So if you can't be honest with your therapist, then that's the wrong therapist. Please, if you can't, I mean, I guess having any relationship with a therapist is better than no relationship. Maybe, I don't know. There might be a lot of nuance there that I don't know, because I got lucky and just I found somebody was recommended to me through a friend who kind of helped me kind of make that decision very delicately and over a long period of time. But so I got lucky and had a really good rapport with my therapist, and since in the year and a half, maybe 2 years at this point, it's been absolutely life changing. But yeah, I don't know if there's like a trick to it. I really think I got lucky, and had friends looking out for me who were willing to help me out, and willing to help ask their therapist if they could recommend a friend. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. But just try to be as honest as you possibly can be with yourself, because that is absolutely where it starts.
How
If
did you feel? How did you feel when your friend suggested a therapist? Because I think if I heard you correctly, you said he did it little and gently over time.
Yeah.
Like so was it kind of like jokingly, or did he kind of just like, or he or she or whatever, kind of address it directly to you, like, Tyrone, I kind of see some things that I've dealt with in therapy, and I think
Mhm.
this therapist could help you with those same things? Or how did they approach you with that? Because I think that's important for people who may think that someone that they love is going through some issues, how do they approach them without offending them, or again pushing them over the limit or the top?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you from my experience. So, it's the person who helped me was actually Matt, my best friend. You know, Matt.
Yeah.
Just for some context, we get on video games, we all play some Avengers together, go kicking some ass or get our asses kicked, whatever. But no, so we've been friends for 2 decades. So like it's we've been friends for a long time. So, as he started his therapy journey before I did, obviously, and but because of how close we are, we often would talk about those the things that was challenging us in life, or the stuff that was hanging heavy on our head, whatever. Like we have a very, very good friendship of just being open and honest with each other and stuff. So he would often share the stuff that he was going through at the time, or the some of the things that he kind of learned in therapy, and over time I could see changes in him. So as we were talking, he would and I'm giving him my thoughts and stuff. He would pick up on things and kind of ask me questions and everything, and like I'd come to a realization, and he'd be like, yeah, therapy is great. So it wasn't so much I think you need therapy. It was him leading by example, really, when it comes down to it, and showing me that even though I could have probably gone my entire life without therapy and been okay, and and by all means, or by any measure, been a pretty decent and successful human. This is without a doubt the better path, and it took me seeing it in real time. I think seeing somebody who I respected change into somebody who I respected even more, and and kind of was being like, hey, this is a good journey to be on, and if you ever want to look into it. And he would encourage me. So it was never like, I think you need to do this, but he would encourage me. He'd be like, it's fucking great, man. Like, you should absolutely try it. You know what I mean? Like, so it wasn't necessarily a you need to do this intervention kind of thing. It was like a, hey, join me, because it's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, this is a great journey to be on. It's life changing. It's healing. It's it's all these positive things, and it's work. I'm not gonna lie, it's work sometimes, but work that I would do over and over and over again for the results.
And you went into that situation, like, because what I heard you say was being true to yourself. So you didn't go into it feeling like, I'm telling the truth to this therapist. I'm telling the truth to myself. So in essence, that was what helped you to cope with the idea of sharing your deepest, darkest secrets with someone, because you kind of internalized it.
Yeah. And this, I don't know if this is something that is personal to me, like if it's something that is, people like me do this kind of thing, but upon the first like talk or so, it was very much like, all right, I'm gonna put my best foot forward, and I got to make sure the therapist likes me and that kind of stuff. And I was like, already I'm seeing myself do shit that I don't need to be doing. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, no, this needs to just be like, she doesn't need to see the best version of myself. She needs to see the realest, rawest version of me. That, and it's a tough thing to do, because nobody wants to just like be the most vulnerable, in the most vulnerable position, and like put all your stuff out there. You know what I mean? And not that I even have anything to hide, but it's just like, we have these things that kind of just stay in our minds. And they're in there. And while we don't consciously think of them, they are affecting our decisions. They're affecting our mood. They're affecting the way that we move through life. So, when you start to unearth those things, you kind of fight back on yourself, and you're like, nah, everything's fine. Stop. Yeah, we're good. Like, we probably don't even have to go to therapy this next time. Like, we could probably just cancel this one. You know what I mean? So it's I honestly don't even remember what your question was anymore, because I started rambling about therapy. But it's if you could remind me of your question, I want to make sure I answered it. I'll just shut up for a second.
Nah, I just basically was like, when you went to your therapist, and you already put in your mind that you were going to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Is that your way, or was that your way of coping with the idea that you were going to have to completely be honest with this person, but because because they're a stranger, no doubt, they're still a stranger, and you know, I don't know specifically when you went, but I know it wasn't like 20 years ago.
No,
So
it's
you
like a
were
year and
still
a
an
half or
adult.
two.
You
Yeah.
were you were an adult. So by this point, before you met her, you've now been in interactions with people, so you know that everybody you can't trust, and everything like that. And so when you're going into this and you're telling yourself, I'm gonna be honest with self, I'm gonna be honest with myself so that I can heal and find out what's affecting me and why things are affecting me this way. Did you use uh that message to yourself as a way to cope with the idea of telling a perfect stranger, all of your deepest darkest?
I hadn't even really thought about coping. It was just like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be, completely honest. And I think I feel like maybe that's why I lost the question, because like the idea of coping never really entered my mind,
Mhm.
because and maybe this is another sign of a good therapist. There was no need to cope with anything. It was, instead of just kind of like instead of finding ways to cope with something in a way, or to soothe it, it was more attacking something head on. So there was not a period of like, oh God, that was like, wow, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this new thing that came up. It was like, here's a thing, and here's also the tools to deal with this thing. So, you know
So
what I
you
mean?
went in full transparency. You were like full transparency.
Yeah. Yeah. Outside of like, I haven't told her about the murders, but other than that, everything is just
Yeah,
completely
keep that one.
nonsense.
Keep that one close to yourself.
Yeah, no, but it's, yeah,
Holly,
absolutely.
Holly, you wanted to say something?
Oh yeah. So I've been going to therapy on and off since I was 9 years old, and so
Oh,
I'm
wow.
33 now, and I'm still in therapy. And so how I've always viewed therapy is kind of like an outlet, like when I need to talk to someone because something, like kind of what Tyrone was saying, like something kind of like really bothering you, and you kind of like it's in the back of your mind, and you need to like, maybe I need to like address this because it's there. And I go in at different phases in my life. I've gone to therapy for different things to cope, handle stress, how to handle conflict, how to deal with people, how to let go of things, self care. Um, you know, so I'm like a big proponent of therapy and like having and trust me, I think I've had like 6 or 7 different therapists throughout my life. So when it comes to like the shopping of a therapist, yeah, sometimes you got to be like, yeah, this ain't it. And it might take you a couple sessions just to be like, yeah, I don't like the way you talk to me, or your advice, I probably could have figured that out myself, or like I think sometimes. And also it was also where I was at in life, like kind of like one of the comments is like, if you're not really ready to receive the feedback, no therapist you go to is going to work because you're
Yeah.
not open to receiving anything. So I think yeah, definitely got to go in like kind of with an open mind, not necessarily ready to give all your secrets, but I think with an open mind that what this person could be recommending or suggesting that you try could work. So like I'm going through therapy now for like OCD, like to manage my OCD and like ADHD, and like how do I like not have those obsessive thoughts about certain things, and like you know what I mean. And I'm not afraid to say that. I think it's more just like, hey, it's just something that at this point in my life is like, it's bothering me a lot. I want to get it under control, and then that way it doesn't stress me out or make me feel bad or anything like that. So I think you can use therapy just, or even like life, just like things that are like maybe a problem for only 6 months, and then you move on. So that's just my thought when it comes to like different therapists.
It sounds like you might agree with me here, Holly, on this one, but I feel like something that can't be measured and sometimes not even described really well, and then and you don't know it until after you've had therapy, but there's this sense of like relief and accomplishment and like
Yeah.
these things that like I feel like it's gonna sound super hokey and super corny, but whatever. Fuck it, right? I'm in therapy, it doesn't matter. No, but like I feel more powerful than before. You know what I mean? I feel like I have
Absolutely.
more control over my life, my thoughts, I feel
Mhm.
like somebody was like, oh, by the way, the whole time you've been driving yourself, you've been doing it in like first gear. Like here, you got 6 more, like go for it. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy. It's I highly recommend this journey to everybody.
Yeah.
Wow. we're gonna do something a little different this week, you guys. I haven't forgot about you, all the people in the audience. You guys have been going crazy with these questions, and I wanted to address them, or comments rather, and I wanted to address them specifically. Uh, Lisa, we'll start with you. Just goes to show you that no matter your circumstances in life, mental health can affect anyone. This young man probably didn't want for anything in his life and still was so afflicted internally. That is a great point. And for those who just are joining us, she is talking in regards to Regina King's son, Ian, who committed suicide on his birthday this year, the 19th of 20 January, unexpectedly and to the surprise of everyone. He was 26 years old, and this is definitely one of those things that we will never really know for sure, because we don't have the source to give us an insight on what it was that they did. But this does bring up a, you know, the issue of mental health and why this is such an important issue. Because when I met Tyrone, like this, he was like, "We got to do a show. We got to do a show on therapy, mental health. We got to do a show." And we did a show, and after doing it, I was like, "We got to do another show. We got to do another show, and we'll probably have to do another show, because this is something that you speak to every time, Tyrone, and that is the fact that mental health is not something that is discussed in the Black community.
Mm.
We don't discuss it. We dismiss it. We push it under the table. We associate um different verbiage to describe it. We say, "Oh, hey, he's crazy. He's a little off.
Yeah.
He can't get right." Like that. There's things that we fear in the Black community, which is um talking to strangers about our issues. Most people in the Black community, and I'm sorry if someone has a problem with me generalizing, but I have to generalize. But in the Black community, typically we mind our business. We keep to ourselves. We mind our business. I know that's how I was raised, to mind my business, and let them do what they do over there, and you mind your stuff over here. I was taught that from an early age. I remember my mom like smacking the shit out of me one time, like, "What are you doing being so nosy for?" It's like, "Oh, I won't do that again." So and I think there's a lot of people that receive that smack from a grandma, a aunt, a mom, or whoever, pops, for being nosy. So we feel like going to talk to a complete stranger is
Right.
like this, like, "Oh, no, hell no, I don't know that guy. He'll use my information." It's so many things and so many different narratives that we picture and paint when it comes to mental health. And I think, Tyrone, you say it the best when it comes down to it. We have to get out of that mindset. We have to allow the professionals to do their jobs. If we could fix it all, then there would be no mental health. Clearly, we can't fix it all. So we need help, and it's okay to reach out and find that help. Let's see what else we got here. All right, we got Lisa again. All right. Something else that we as parents need to change. We're used to that. You have nothing to cry about mentality. Yes, but we need to start validating their feelings at their young age. And again, if you're just joining us, that's in regards to how we as parents um, validate our children's feelings when they come to us and they tell us that there's a problem, or they're stressed, or they're going through something, and we acknowledge it, but we don't actually address it. So I think she's made another valid point, that we have to start changing our way of thinking as parents in order to understand where our children are coming from, in order to help them to heal. And also therapy, a combination. It can be a team effort. It doesn't just have to be you, mom, you, dad, you, auntie, you, grandma. It could be all of y'all Not excluding anybody, but it could be everyone. And then some therapy on top of that, because again, the therapist went to school, was trained in all of the stuff that, to help one heal. Allow them to do their jobs. Let's allow them to do their jobs. Let's see. I like this one. You have to be a helicopter parent nowadays. I'm full-blown paranoid. Lisa, I wouldn't even call it helicopter parent. I would just call it parent. Period. If you're a parent and you're not concerned with what the hell's going on with your child, tap in. We need to have a talk. You should always be concerned about everything that your child is doing, because we were kids too, and you remember what the fuck we were doing. Enough said. Enough said there. Let's see here. This is why not only therapy, but finding the right therapist is important. Starting at an early age, all therapists are not built the same. It is a shop around process, which you spoke to, Holly, very elegantly about. You'll go to somebody, you might not like how they're talking to you. You'll go to another one, you may feel like what they told you was something you already knew and you could have found out yourself. But it is a process that you have to be willing to go through, and be like adamant about not stopping until you find the right one. Don't go to 2 or 3 and just be, just be like, oh well, I tried, but it wasn't for me. Well, how are you gonna know? Because you never really actually attempted. Yeah, you attempted to make contact, but if you didn't make contact, then how will you know what happens? There's just nothing there. So it is a process, and you just have to be willing to step into it. Let's see. Minnie, my man Minnie showed up, pulled up. What you got here, Minnie? Let's see. Court ordered therapy didn't work for me. It wasn't until I went on my own that it started to work. It is what it's a want to as well. And the first time I went to therapy, boy, if you don't get your writing together, boy, got me up here reading this
period or some commas or something.
Yeah.
But no, it's so true though. It's a want. Like you have to, like you can't force somebody into it. You can't, dragging somebody to therapy is not ever going to work. You know what I mean? And like, Cordy, I can't say not ever going to work. That's not true. You may have somebody who's especially talented who can bring somebody over, or maybe somebody's more ready than they think they are. But yeah, you have to be ready. Like you can't fight against it. If you're fighting your therapist, if you're actively working against what your therapist is trying to do, then you're wasting both your time and probably some money.
You heard it. You heard it from the best right there, man. So and Minnie again. So when I went as a kid, I always felt like he was judging me, and as I got older, that part got better. Depression, it's still a problem, but it's manageable now. I have tools. Beautiful. Well, that is beautiful, because what I heard there is by you going, and actually wanting to go, you were rewarded by now having or being equipped with useful new tools that you could apply to your life and make things go better for yourself. So in essence, it worked out. And that's always a plus when you actually go and attempt something and it turns out to be what you wanted it to be.
And also that speaks to his resilience too, not being discouraged by bad experiences. That's huge, because so many people who are trying to start, if they have a bad experience, they're like, well, like you said earlier, I tried. I put the effort in, I tried, and it wasn't for me.
And when all else fails, medicate. So yeah, man. But great show, guys. We get to that part of the show that I dread. But I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. So it's all good. But I Lisa, you're right. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I think this was a great episode for me as well, because I learned something today about myself And anytime, I can look inwardly and find something that I did not realize was there is always a plus in my life as well, especially on my journey of growth. So thank you, Tyrone, and thank you, Holly, for having this great conversation
Absolutely.
about something so important. And I cannot say that enough. So important. Um, because we're still having people out here committing suicide, guys.
Hmm.
We still have people out here taking their lives because they don't feel like they're deserving or they're loved enough or whatever the case may be. We still have people out here killing themselves. And until we don't have people out here killing themselves, we will continue this fight to try to give them an outlet and a better option than taking their life. So again, if you or someone uh, is thinking of hurting yourself, please, please contact the National Suicide Prevention Line at 1-800-273-TALK. And if you don't have a phone, but you do have access to the internet, suicidepreventionlifeline.org. And also, if you just don't want to talk, but you want to text, text connect to 741-741. I'll leave that up there for a second, so you can get that down if you need it for yourself or others.
Also, feel free to send me a DM if you're somebody who's thinking about it and you want to just like know a little bit more about like getting into therapy and what my experience was like or something. If I could do anything, give you any information to help out, I'm happy to. So send a DM. I'll gladly give you whatever I can, whatever resources I can to help out.
Yeah, I think I might send an anonymous DM to you. So if you see that guy, black man, that's me.
I'll
So,
see.
but no,
It'll be not Ty, not Ty.
yeah, it'll be not Ty. Anybody but Ty. Nah, but no. This last year that we've been doing the show, man, like, and I really am thankful for you, Tyrone, because
Likewise.
you gave me the sense enough to go get the vaccine, because I was very much against that, and I went out there and got it, and I'm here, still alive. So seems to be working thus far. And also, you enlightened me and brought me into the realm of possibilities when it comes to um going to therapy and seeking out someone to talk to about whatever issues. And also, you do lend yourself, you lend your ear to anytime I have an issue or I have a problem. So I thank you for your friendship, and I thank you for being the individual you are. And you too, Holly. I won't leave you out. You definitely have been
I
a
was just gonna let you have
source.
your moment. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's okay.
You've been a source of inspiration as well, and definitely someone who I hold in high regard. So thank you both for doing the show and having this conversation. But we get to that moment, so let's go ahead and tell the people where they can get at you. Holly, you go first, and you're on.
Hey everybody. So since we're talking about mental health, I just want to share a couple virtual mental therapy platforms such as BetterHelp or Talkspace. I've used both. And if you have an employer that offers employee assistance programs, also known as EAP, please check those out because you can get about 5 to 6, depending, sessions regarding therapy. So you can just say stress, anxiety, family, whatever. Tends to cover the gamut of a lot of things, but you can get some free therapy sessions. I've done it multiple occasions at different employers and gotten a ton of free therapy sessions. But again, you can find me at Holly Noon, just like my name says below, on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, all that good stuff. And catch us next Wednesday at 6:30 on YouTube and Facebook. So see you next Wednesday. Bye.
Good job, Tyrone.
Yeah. Thank you for that information, Holly. That's a lot of good information. I want to recommend, if anybody is like at the beginning and they're like, I don't know if I want to see a therapist yet. I'm still kind of on the fence or whatever. A book that really helped me, to kind of really really get on that path was a book called The Road Less Traveled. It's written by a psychologist named Scott Peck, P-E-C-K. And it's not a self-help book. It's a psychology book. It's written by a psychologist. It's about, the process basically. And it was a huge help. It was a big turning point reading that book. So again, that's The Road Less Traveled by Scott Peck. Cannot recommend that enough. If you have any questions for me, you can reach me at Tyrone Thornhill on all social media platforms whenever I decide to check them, because I can do that, because it's not that much pressure from me. Not just kidding. But yeah, hit me up. Let me know if you have any questions. You can catch me here Wednesdays, 6:30 on MulTYversed, obviously. Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. for the New Bird Order. And I can't wait to see you. Thank you for tuning in.
And we can't wait for Tyrone's next show, man, because eventually we're going to get some footage, and we'll have some footage to give to y'all. I know y'all been thirsting to see what he does in his nightlife. He's not just Batman, but he has other stuff going on too. So kudos and shout outs to Lisa. I cannot say enough how much we appreciate all that you do, because you have come here and been at damn near every show religiously. And I want to say a simple hello. How are you? And can I make a difference in your life? Because that's what friends do. So listen, thank you again, Lisa. Thank you to everyone that was in the comment section. Amy, Minnie, everybody that pulled up, just came in, take a peek. We appreciate all the support. We're going to continue to be putting out all this great content and having these deep discussions on these topics that plague us as a society. So please join us next week. We will have something. I think we'll have something a little fun for next week. I've had a couple of ideas, so I got to talk to the guys and see what they think. But I think we'll have a fun show next week. So you guys might want to pull up for that one. It won't be as serious as this one has been. But again, thank everybody. I'm Bad Ty Bricks. You can find me right here on Facebook. You can always find me here every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Also on New Bird Order at 10 a.m. on Saturday mornings. Make sure you go and follow a podcast called TBD. They've changed their name. Also follow Financial Griot, our friends over there. And anybody
So
else?
please understand.
Oh, well, yeah, we you better be following. So please understand by now. I mean, come on now. What are you doing? What's going on? And definitely catch that new episode on So Please Understand, where Miss Holly Noon is giving you all the information you need to know in the history of Ida B. Wells. So make sure you
Barbie. Yeah, she's a Barbie she became a Barbie. They made her a Barbie.
Yeah, I did see that at the end of the episode. That was
Black Girl Magic. Check that out.
I wish we would honor more people while they're alive. I don't know. It just seems appropriate, but it is
Black
always
people gotta die to get honored.
Yeah. I feel like that. You gotta. That's like
we gotta die to get honored.
But we'll get past that at some point. Hopefully, we'll grow as a society and start appreciating people while they're alive. But listen, I've said enough. Until next week, guys. From Bad Ty Bricks, Holly Noon, and Tyrone Thornhill, we are the MulTYversed, and we are out.